As consumers, we are bombarded by it at every turn, like the Incredible Hulk being bombarded by gamma rays. But what makes some media endure, while others are banished to the forgotten black hole of obscurity, never to be heard from again? Who or what decides this? Hetero life mates Steve and Yahel want to know, and they want to know now. This is Obscurity Now. Weird day. Name's Adam. Where I'm from, I'm known as the Zero Thief. Depending on who you ask, some might say I'm the best thief. But believe it or not, even the best screws up every once in a while, and that's what I did, and I had to make a fast getaway. I ended up crash landing on a bizarre planet. Turns out, I didn't get away fast enough. These winged freaks followed me here.
It's just us here, Zero Thief, on this empty, backwards planet. So start talking, either to me or my blade.
Okay, I do have something to tell you. It's about the planet. It's not that empty. Come on, man, I thought you were gonna duck. Cut me loose! Behind you! Whoa! Thought I was done for. It was gonna be a light snack or a snarling creature. But then, she showed up, riding on the back of one of those monsters like it was nothing. With a wave of her hand, the other razor-toothed beast just stomped away. I'd never seen anyone like her before in my life. Thought I'd say something clever. Thanks, have you seen my ship? She gave me a look that said more than words ever could, because I think she was trying to read my mind or something. From there, things just got even weirder. Escape to Earth. 36 pages of insane dinosaur action. Issue 1 available now at reptilianmedia.bigcartel.com. Issue 2 crowdfunding now on Indiegogo, featuring a variant cover by Sean Forney. Act now while supplies last. And what's up, Obscurians? It's time for another episode of Obscurity Now, the show where we take a look at weird and almost forgotten pieces of media, and then we decide if they should be remembered for all of human history or tossed into the void of obscurity, never to be heard from again. My name is Steve. I am one of the hosts, and with me is a man who once sold Jessica Spano speed. It's
yeah. Hell, how are you?
I'm
doing,
excited.
Steven?
I'm so excited, but I'm also scared. How about yourself?
I'm also excited, but I'm not scared, Steve. I don't live my life in fear.
I'm not scared either. I mean, in fact, if I had done a bunch of speed before this podcast, I'd be ready to go. No, I'm excited to jump into the world of Saved by the Bell, recommended by you. How about yourself?
Yeah, I'm excited. I grew up watching Saved by the Bell, like so many of us did back in the 90s. I assume you watched it as well?
Absolutely. Now, I'm just curious, did you have that did you watch it before you went to high school, and then when you got to high school and saw that high school was nothing like Saved by the Bell, you kind of like sort of just tossed it aside and stopped watching? Because that's what happened to me for the most part.
No, Steve, I don't throw away things in my life.
You just keep everything, huh?
Like that, but I hope your family's not listening, or that they're at least aware of the kind of man you are. They're very Zack-like, actually, if anything.
Nothing could be further from me and Zack Morris.
I don't know. You guys have, well, I guess your hair's not really blonde, but anyway, yeah, no, I watched it as it aired, I think from like season 2, 4. Like I never caught Miss Bliss. Until way
I remember
later.
when they were rerunning Miss Bliss, but they were still calling it Saved by the Bell. And then my mom, I guess she, because as it's been recorded in past Disney-themed episodes of Obscurity Now, we had the Disney Channel at a very early age. And I guess she must have caught Miss Bliss, because she would
So I guess much like Zach Morris in this episode, you also only think poor people are people that don't have cable. Growing up, was that?
Well, like we were out in the boonies, so we had a satellite dish, so we were even better than them. Like,
Oh, excuse me, spaceman. Didn't realize I had an astronaut adjacent co-host here. How's Buzz doing? And I do mean Buzz Aldrin, the astronaut.
Sadly, my mind went to Buzz Lightyear, and I was like, well, his latest feature flopped pretty hard. I don't know if you heard or not, but
I'm sure you know all about it being a Disney head since birth or whatever.
Because there's nothing I love more than the Walt Disney Corporation.
Oh yeah, you don't complain about it every episode.
No, definitely not. Not unless it's brought up.
You know how like Red Letter Media, does supercuts of Mike talking about Star Trek. We could do that with you complaining about. And then we
can do that about you talking about Star Trek. So it all works out.
That's fine by me.
And I'm fine with it too. I
even get to talk about it in this episode. Spoiler alert.
Really? Well, that is interesting. Well, let's not waste any more time. Let's jump into the Saved by the Bell Christmas special. What do you say?
Let's do it.
Welcome to your feature presentation.
So who's your favorite Saved by the Bell character? Do you have a favorite Saved by the Bell character?
I don't know if I have a favorite per se, but I guess Zack. As a kid growing up, like I liked him. I mean, now like I like him for different reasons. Because when you watch the show as an adult, you're like, wow, he's kind of a terrible person.
I want to posit the theory here that Zack is basically a sexual predator that everyone is okay with.
I mean, yes. Kelly even alludes to this.
They all support it and are okay with it, even his mom.
Yeah, like the new girl that Zach's trying to hit on at some point, she says, oh yeah, Zach was like, let's go sit on Santa's lap. And Kelly tells her, I'm surprised he didn't make you sit on his.
Yeah. And then I think I have it written down later, but yeah, the mom makes a very similar quip. But I think, well, not only, does this series, I mean, it starts, at the end of the 80s and goes into the early 90s, but it's also written and directed by some pretty old dudes. So I'm sure this behavior was perfectly okay with them back then.
Yes. Par for the course.
Right, absolutely. So Saved by the Bell ran from 1989 to 1992, and it was 4 seasons and created by TV writer Sam Bobrick for the Disney Channel, originally titled Good Morning Miss Bliss. So you never saw a single Good Morning Miss Bliss episode? Or maybe you did and you didn't realize it.
Not as Good Morning. No, I mean, I saw like when they re-aired it as season 1 of Saved by the Bell, but I never saw it originally.
Right. Yeah, same here. I just think it's interesting. Like the only characters that made it out of there was Zack, Screech, and Mr. Belding, and everybody else was.
I mean, but I think those were the best characters from the show.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, in Screech, he endured long after even Zack left, or Screech and Mr. Belding.
Yeah, he ends up in the new class, right?
Absolutely, with his fake squeaky voice. But let's see. All right, we already went there. And so the episode that we are talking about today, or episodes, should I say, is from Season 3, Episode 24 and 25, titled Home for Christmas Parts 1 and 2. And the first one premiered December 7th, 1991, and followed up by the Part 2 in December 14th, 1991. And here's a synopsis, and I'm just going to go right through both of them. Zack, Slater, Screech, Kelly, and Jesse are working at the mall for the holidays, where they befriend a homeless man and his daughter. Part 2. While Zack's mom prepares to put on the mall's production of A Christmas Carol, the gang try to help the Bentons, the aforementioned homeless people, get back on their feet for the holidays after Laura is accused of stealing. And one of the elder statesmen who directed this episode is Don Barnhart, and he
Yeah, he directed a lot of episodes of Saved by the Bell.
Yeah. Basically, everyone here, aside from a few of the writers, they're I guess the series sort of stalwarts, if you will. And if you want to see some past Don Barnhart episodes of things that aren't Saved by the Bell, he directed Benson. Does anyone remember that show?
I do. Well, I mean, I know I never watched it, but you know who was on Benson, don't you? Odo from Star Trek Deep Space Nine. Renee Abadjono.
If you would have given me time, that's what I was gonna say. But sure, I guess we'll never know. But he also directed episodes of Mork and Mindy, and we're going to review this someday, California Dreams.
Which, ironically, is more obscure than Saved by the Bell. I don't see Peacock doing a California Dreams reboot.
Well, yeah, they won't do a reboot, but I mean, is it at least on there to watch?
I don't know, but I mean, they did the Saved by the Bell reboot a few years ago. It only had 2 seasons. I don't know if you watched any of it, but it was actually pretty decent, I thought. Although I didn't catch season 2. It
just had Slater and Jesse on there, right?
Well, no, Zack and Kelly are on there too, but like very sparingly. I believe in season 2, though, they do use more of the regular cast from what I remember reading. And they have like an episode where they do like a little tribute to Dustin Diamond, aka.
Oh, and that's it's kind of like a Weekend at Bernie's where they take his corpse and pretend that he's alive. Is that one of those?
No. But they bring back. I know that they bring back the Max.
Oh, wow.
And Max himself.
Speaking of Max himself, so this year we went to the Hollywood Christmas Parade, which is kind of cool, but also. I don't know, for some weird reason they always have well, I guess it's not really weird. They just kind of have celebrities in it that are kind of haven't heard from in a while. And when we went last year, which was our first time going, who was in there but Max himself? And he's like, "Hey, remember me? Nice. I'm not dead. Hey, I'm the Max."
Yeah, there's a podcast that Mark Paul Gosselaar, aka Zack, and this other guy. Oh my God, his name just escapes me, but it'll come back to me. Anyways, there's a podcast they did called Zack to the Future, where they go in order covering the episodes of Saved by the Bell. They only did the first 50 because then their network, Cadence 13, didn't pick him up. But Daschle is his name. But just a quick aside. And it's connected to this. There's a YouTube series called Zach Morris's Trash.
I thought you were going to reference that at some point.
Yeah, so it's pretty funny. They just do like 3 or 4 minute reviews of like a Saved by the Bell episode and kind of talk about what Zach did that was awful in that episode. It's embellished, but it's pretty much accurate. But anyways, the guy that wrote and voiced those somehow ended up getting back to Mark Paul, who got in touch with him. And long story short, or I'm sorry, not Mark Paul, but somebody who became a producer on the show. Long story short, he ended up getting hired as a writer on the new Saved by the Bell. And yeah, how cool is that? And he is like a legit super fan, and he's the co-host of the podcast with Mark Paul, and it's a really fun podcast. There's a lot of like really interesting behind the scenes stuff. I recommend it only after you listen to all of our episodes.
And so my question to you, Yahel, is when is David Hasselhoff going to contact us to resurrect Baywatch Nights? I mean, come on. We're the only...
I think we need to review a couple more. I don't think we can get his attention with just one.
Hey, it's in the works. So the writers here, we've got basically 3 of them. Tom Tinowich, he wrote part 1. And he also wrote Mork and Mindy, this other show called City Guys, and another show called One World. And then Sam Bobrick, I guess he's basically he's the series creator and the regular writer, I would say. And he wrote these episodes as well. Get Smart, Bewitched, and The Flintstones are some of his past shows. And then Bennett Tramer wrote part 2. And he's known for writing Saved by the Bell, The New Class, The College Years, and then the TV movie, not the Cinemax movie, called Poison Ivy. And, of course, production companies for Saved by the Bell include Peter Ingold Productions and NBC Productions, of course. So who were some of the thespians that brought this the Christmas Carol to life here.
Alrighty. So we have, of course, Mark Paul Gosselaar as Zach Morris. He's actually had a pretty successful career. Franklin and Bash. He was on NYPD Blue for a bunch of seasons. There was a show he did. Oh my God, what is it? And something-ish. Mix-ish, I think it was. That was a pretty recent sitcom. So yeah, he's kept working pretty regularly, and which is good because I actually really like him as an actor, and he seems like a nice guy.
I just remember him from. Do you remember? Did they make you read the book Hatchet when you were in middle school? Like the story about.
No.
Well, it's a story about a kid who he's in like a one of those single engine planes and it crashes in the forest and he basically has to learn to survive on his own. Well, they did a movie for that, and then they did a sequel for it that starred Mark Paul Gosselaar. Look it up.
Ah, man, it sounds vaguely familiar, but no, I don't really remember that. But then we got Mario Lopez, who plays AC Slater. Again, another guy that's kept working a lot. He's like, I guess these days mostly known for his work on Entertainment
It's hosting
Tonight.
Yeah.
Or Entertainment Week, I can't remember what it's called, but
And when I was busy looking for my notes, I forgot to tell you who my favorite character was, and it was actually Slater. And I'm kind of surprised that he wasn't your favorite as well, because he was a wrestler, man.
yeah, but he's also kind of like portrayed sometimes as a bit of an idiot. I don't know. Well, it's very inconsistent. Like some episodes he's kind of dumb. Other episodes, he's a super smart, clever guy.
Well, you could say the same thing about Screech in that regard.
I guess so.
Yeah.
Well, like Screech is like always like intelligent, like as far as like book smart. It's
Right.
Other stuff that maybe he doesn't quite get.
Right.
But yeah, anyways, Mario Lopez, he still like does a bunch of like straight to streaming and video movies and stuff like that. Did you see the KFC thing he did?
Oh, I watched it, man.
It was good. Man.
It was so bizarre.
And he's another guy that doesn't really seem to take himself too seriously,
Right. I could see like him, Dean Cain, and Kevin Sorbo all like being in some like, I don't know, Three Amigos remake or something.
Yeah. But I will say he has found the best Botox doctor in all of Hollywood because man looks great, but
Yeah, he does.
clearly can't move parts of his face as well as a normal human being could, but otherwise looks great. Then we have Tiffany Thiessen, who plays Kelly. She also had it's kind of crazy how many people had like decent careers after Saved by the Bell from the show, because a lot of times especially when you're like a kid or a teenager on a show that's really popular, like that's it. You're typecast and that's it.
True. Did you watch when she showed up on 90210?
Yes.
So did I.
I do remember.
I'll admit it. Yeah.
Yeah, she showed up on 90210 for I think like several seasons, like the last few seasons,
She
right?
was like a bad girl or something, right?
Yeah, she had 136 episodes on 90210.
Wow.
Good lord. But yeah, anyways, she was been in a bunch of TV shows and series and yada yada. Then we've got Dustin Diamond, who didn't have quite a successful career, although he did end up filming a porn and letting everybody know he has a big penis. So good for him.
Don't forget about his like various run-ins with the law and bar fights that he was in. Like, man, that's
He was also in Hulk Hogan's Celebrity Championship Wrestling. Do you remember that?
No. Oh,
We should cover
wow.
that.
Okay.
And he was actually pretty. I mean, nobody on there was good, but he was one of the more decent ones. Him and Danny Bonaducci. I think he was on it. Maybe I'm misremembering that. Maybe I'm just thinking of Danny Bonaducci now that I say it out loud.
Right. Yeah, because I remember catching an episode, and I don't remember seeing him on there.
Let's see. Yeah, and I don't see it on his IMDb, so maybe not.
It was just a fever dream.
I'll get some confirmation later on.
Okay.
So then we've got Elizabeth Berkley, who hasn't had like a terrible post Saved by the Bell career. She's probably like, besides Saved by the Bell, most infamously known for her role in Showgirls.
Yep. Have you ever
seen
that movie? Yeah. I mean, so have I. I mean, it's actually regarded as kind of like a cult or camp classic.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so bizarre because, I mean, aside from the fact that she's in it, it's also the same director as RoboCop. Like, so how can you go from high art like RoboCop to to that. And a lot of people think that he was just trying to prove that he could still make a crap ton of money with an NC-17 rating. But big surprise, I don't think he did.
Yeah. Well, it also, I mean, it just didn't look good. But anywho, I just realized I never hit tweet on my tweets. Let me set that. Then we've got excuse me, I'm going to come back to her. We'll do Dennis Haskins. Of course, he plays Mr. Belding. He's had like some parts here and there as well, but nothing that was equal. However, I see, Steve, you've got a big Dennis Haskins factoid to share.
Yeah. Well, I was just going to ask, I forgot, do you watch Always Sunny in Philadelphia?
Yeah, I know he was on.
Yeah, where he played I think it's I don't know, you're not allowed to say the P word O file, I guess, on YouTube, but I'm pretty sure that's what he played. Or someone who he molested Charlie Day, I think, if I'm not mistaken. But anyway, he was on there. If you want to see some more Mr. Belding content, there you go.
Wow. Melody Rogers, who plays Zack's mom. She didn't really have anything of note afterwards, and she only had a few other credits beforehand. It's funny that they made Zack's mom. I mean, it makes total sense that they made her a white blonde lady, but Mark Paul Gosselaar is actually half, I believe, half Filipino, half white.
No, it's Indonesian.
That's what it is, and his mom is the Indonesian one. Yep. Yeah. So his mom looks nothing like this, basically. No. And for our guest stars, we've got Jennifer McComb, who plays Laura. Again, she's actually still working, had a couple things last year, but nothing big. And then, although she was in an episode of Viper.
Oh, nice. Awesome.
And she was also in an episode of Sliders, which I know that's on our list.
Someday.
Then we've got Stephen Mendel, who plays her father, Frank. This guy, I don't know if you looked at his IMDb, but he still works pretty regularly, but he's got a lot of anime credits.
Huh, weird.
Yeah, I was not expecting that. Mobile Suit Gundam, Hunter x Hunter, Lupin the Third, a bunch of stuff. And also he had a part in the Angry Video Game Nerd movie.
Oh, wow. Have you ever actually seen that movie?
I think I had a code for it on Amazon or something, and I started it and I never finished.
I heard it's pretty bad.
I've heard it's bad too. I was just drunk, and I was like, "Oh, I'm not gonna remember any of this." So and I just kind of forgot about it. But I've heard it's not great. But I don't know. I still enjoy the Angry Video Game Nerd.
Oh yeah, the show.
It's nostalgic.
The show's fine. Yeah, for sure. I'm wondering how it will compare to the Game Chasers movie, which I hope to watch someday.
And last but not least, we've got Lark Voorhees. I saved her for last, Stephen, because she played Star Trek parts twice. And one of them I didn't even know about. She is in Deep Space Nine in one episode. She plays Jake's love interest that episode. And she also voiced the Borg Queen on an episode of Robot Chicken.
Oh, wow. Well, that's like 6 degrees of Star Trek. But,
right. That one doesn't really count, but the DS9 one
But
does.
Hey, that's a nice obscure fact, and I'm glad you brought it up, so here it comes.
Oh no! We've just entered another Star Trek connection.
You also left out, I just think his performance was so over the top that we have to mention Lou Horn is Mr. Moody.
Oh my God, yes.
What was he in?
Hold on.
I mean, that's got to be a fake name, like Lou Horn.
Lou Horn? I don't know. So he was in Police Story.
Okay.
Like that famous Jackie Chan movie?
No. Police Story was it was all, I mean, yes, it's the Jackie Chan movie, but it was also a TV series.
Oh, and you're right. He was in the TV show.
That's what I thought. Yeah. Anything else of note?
They brought him back for... Sorry, this dog back here is going crazy. They brought him back for Saved by the Bell, the new class, to play a teacher, so he played a different character there. But otherwise, I mean, I just see guest starring roles, Growing Pains, and elsewhere. Nothing permanent. Was there anything about him that
No. I just thought his performance was sort of fun and over the top, and I was just curious if he'd done anything else. That's all.
Well, I mean, if you're a Manimal fan, he was on 2 episodes of that, and we don't have Manimal on our
Gotta
list.
cover that. I think it is on the list.
Okay,
But
I'm gonna check on that.
all right. So you ready to jump into the episode?
Yes.
If your dog doesn't eat you alive first.
Yeah, I don't know what's up with him. Let's do it. Oh, yeah, I'm jumping into the episode. Yeah, that's right. I forgot. So I'm taking care of part 1 of the walkthrough. So we open with the gang. The gang being like the Saved by the Bell regulars, like Zack.
We got to talk about the theme first.
Oh, okay. So yeah, the show opens with the theme song, which is a classic. It's amazing. What are your thoughts on the Saved by the Bell theme, and how would you describe it?
I love it. Great question. I don't know that the bass line always felt like, I don't know, sort of your classic rock and roll kind of like splish splash. I'm taking a bath kind of sort of feel. But but then of course they layer in some nice 80s cheese on top of it. Yeah, it's always been a fun one, and it's actually composed by one Scott Gale, and he has also done music for Drexel's Class. I don't know if anyone remembers that show. Herman's Head, Platypus Man, and this was a little bit more well known, Blossom.
Are you telling me that Richard Jenny, star of Platypus Man on UPN's first ever season of shows, isn't well remembered, Steve?
I guess not, man. I guess not.
Wow.
I mean, it's remembered.
Well, listen, me and the other Jenny Knights don't appreciate how you're insulting us.
Wow. Well, I'll see you at JennyCon 2023.
I don't think anyone's going to see anyone at JennyCon.
Right. But yeah, Scott Gale is still working, and yeah, it's a great theme. And I also really always enjoyed the background music to Saved by the Bell as well. Just
well, most of that was pretty much done by Scott Gale as well. They talk about it a lot on the Zack to the Future podcast. So yeah, anytime you heard any original music, it was pretty much Scott Gale doing it.
Yep. All right, so take it away.
One thing I do want to mention, Steve, before I get into it, because I don't want to forget, is you mentioned that this is season 3, episode 24 and 25. Well, that depends on where you're watching it. If you watch it on Hulu, it's actually season 4 because they've got Miss Bliss as season 1 of Saved by the Bell. But I didn't check because it's also on Peacock, and I didn't check to see how it is on there. But anyways, just wanted to let people know, if you are looking for this and you don't see it on season 3, check season 4, and it should be there as episode 24 or 25, something like that.
Definitely watch it ahead of time, because we're gonna spoil the murderer in this episode.
Yeah, we're gonna get that rapist. Anyway,
it's Zack. Damn it,
it's Zack.
He did it.
It's Zack. He did it. Okay. Oh, by the way, we have good form in the chat here. Here she said, "Nostalgia Critic is pretty awful. Check out his review of The Wall." I've seen Nostalgia Critic, and I'll leave it at that.
What's up, Rob? Thanks for joining us. That's good form.
Oh, okay. Great. Let's get into this synopsis. So we open with the gang at Zack's house. They're eating some cookies that Zack helped him make, according to his mom, but Zack just got there.
Right.
So what did he do? Like, make the batter the night before? I don't know. I think his mom just knows that, like, Zack is, like you mentioned, a predator.
Right. He's too busy pulling down tail to make cookies. So when the friends show up, she's already making excuses. She's like, he's always making schemes, right? He's always trying to scam and con people. So she's got to constantly work on building up his reputation. Right. That's what I assume. Right. I mean, and if she doesn't, then Zack will get very angry. Very angry.
Very angry. And I don't remember what kind of cookies there were, but I guess they're supposed to be like in the form of like women or something like that. Because like Slater makes some comment about
gingerbread women. That's so bizarre.
Gingerbread women.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Jessie has one of her classic pig jokes saying it should be like pig cookies or ginger pigs. I don't know. Anyways, they all have a little bit of back and forth banter. I always appreciated like watching it later as an adult, how for the most part they get like maybe not the dialogue right in the way kids would talk to each other or teenagers would, but the tone, how they're always just like
they're always ragging on each other's
balls.
Yes, I appreciate that. And And yeah, the like the quipping and sort of the insults are there's a nice handful of that strewn through both episodes.
Throughout, yeah.
I mean, and I do think that at the start here, I mean, this is classic Saved by the Bell, and that's where I feel like this episode kind of falls a little short somewhat, because like the best parts about Saved by the Bell is the gang interacting with each other, but I'll save that for a little bit later.
Yeah, I get it. No, this is a more serious episode. This would be like advertised, I'm sure, in the 90s as this week on a very special episode of Saved by the Bell.
Right. And then you get a new character who's basically introduced, and basically it's the Zack and new character show, and all the other characters are kind of in a sort of supporting role, which I don't know how long it's been since you've seen that, but I was like, oh, yeah, I forgot about that. But anyway, moving on.
Yeah, I mean, that happens in some other episodes, because I did watch quite a few episodes of Saved by the Bell when I was listening to the Zack to the Future podcast. I was following along, so.
Nice.
But anyway, so the gang's all talking about how they have like these like jobs around for the holidays for whatever reason. Slater is going to be gift wrapping at the mall. And his Zach's mom is like, hey, that might be tough. It's going to be pretty busy. And he's like, hey, don't worry about it being busy, because I'm good at everything I do.
Man, his tone when he said that to his friend's mom.
It's so sexual, right?
It was.
So
and I was
charged.
I mean, my question for you, did you ever go over to one of your friends' house and make weird remarks like that to their mom? Because I never did.
I mean, Steve, anytime I visited you in Georgia and you went to the bathroom, I told your mom just how good I was at everything.
You never visited me in Georgia, you liar.
Yeah, I did.
In Georgia? Did you?
Yeah, I met your dog a few times.
I thought in Orlando.
No, I thought we went to Georgia for, maybe it was Orlando.
Yeah,
you might be right.
It was Orlando,
I don't know, Steve.
because that's when.
Yeah, that makes more sense considering you and I never went to Georgia together.
Lay off the devil's lettuce.
No. All right. So, anyway, Zack responds to Slater's, comment about being good at everything he does by saying, "Not according to the girls I've talked to."
Right. So, what is it exactly that Slater isn't good at? I mean, the mind.
I'm sure it's supposed to be like, I think it's supposed to be kissing.
Right. Making out.
But there's like this innuendo for like, if you're an adult or an older person watching it, and it's really well done. Like it's pretty fucking funny.
So
I thought the whole.
So basically, Zack was implying Slater needs help on his eat out gang.
Yeah, or maybe sex, something sexual in nature.
Right. And this continues. It's throughout the Christmas episodes.
Yeah.
Now, I would like to point out, did you notice Slater's outfit? I mean, in fact, I guess the outfits like all around are, I mean, I guess this was this sort of time where the 80s was bleeding over into the 90s and everything was like ridiculously colorful. He's wearing like red pants and this like weird flowery shirt and stuff.
Yeah.
And I was just like, when was this ever a good idea?
I don't know, but I do remember the style. And I know like for a lot of the episodes, Screech is wearing like a button-up silk shirt, and it'll be like a black square over the right part of the chest, then like a purple circle kind of overlapping the square, and then like the left side's just all white. And those like silk shirts with like simple shapes were like a huge thing. I had a few back in the day. So yeah, it's so weird. And Zach's just like wearing comfy sweaters throughout the whole time, as you do.
Yeah.
So anyways, we find out that Jesse's going to be working, taking pictures at a Santa booth because God forbid they get a professional photographer. We'll have the 17-year-old do it.
Mm-hmm.
And then we find out Lisa's going to volunteer at a hospital. Cheering kids up because that can't leave.
But like, didn't she always have some sort of because her dad was like a doctor, right?
Her dad's a doctor.
She was always volunteering. Right, I thought so. I was just making sure I remembered correctly.
Good job, Steve. Wow, the continuity.
I've been laying off the devil's lettuce.
So we cut to Slater in the next scene at the mall. He's at the gift wrapping stand and he hands this woman this present that he wrapped up, and he says something like, "Oh, your daughter's gonna love these champagne glasses because, she's an alcoholic, I guess. And Slater hands it to her. She takes the box off the counter, and the bottom opens up, and the glasses fall to the floor, and they break. She gets really mad, and she starts like choking.
Oh yeah,
Slater.
she straight up assaults Slater.
Yeah.
He should have called for security, but hey,
Yeah.
it was the 80s or early 90s.
Yeah.
It was a different time.
And Zack is like right there next to the lady on the counter the whole time, just watching until Slater's like, "Help!
Help, Preppy!"
And yeah. So Zack's like, "Oh, don't worry. I'm sure Slater will." To the woman that's choking Slater, she's like, "Oh, don't worry. He'll pay for it." And grabs Slater's wallet and hands her the money.
Not only is Zack Morris, a sexual predator that everyone is okay with, he also has the ability to solve all the problems, no matter what they are.
Yes, he does. I mean, Steven, the man can stop time.
That's right.
Freeze time.
Have you ever? All right, we got to entertain this fan theory, and I should have reread it before we jumped in, but I was too busy partaking in the devil's lettuce. I don't know. That's going to be my running joke for the episode, where someone was positing the idea that like at the end of Miss Bliss or something, Zack Morris is actually in a coma, and then he wakes up and Saved by the Bell because he then has the ability to do whatever he wants. It's like a weird coma fantasy. Have you ever heard that one?
Oh, so he's like sleeping this whole time?
Yeah.
I see. No, I've never heard that before. I like to think that this takes place in a shared universe with Family Matters, where magic and weird science fiction stuff is real, because I don't know if you remember, but like at one point Screech builds like a sentient robot.
That. Yep.
And everybody acts like it's fine, it's normal. And then on Family Matters, Urkel develops like teleportation and cloning technology. So Family Matters, like the last 2 seasons, is like a weird science fiction show. I fucking love it.
Right. He takes I remember he drank a potion that turned him into Bruce Lee or something.
Oh my God, I forgot about that. Yeah. Anyway, but back to the show.
I just want to say they really
we
missed the boat on a Screech and Urkel like team up show or something. Yeah.
I agree. Well, Urkel put out, or Jaleel White put out like a rap during the Urkel days, and there's a bunch of like teen pop stars in it of the day. Maybe Screech is in it, like because they all like have. Like,
we're gonna get to the bottom of this mystery.
Yeah, I know I have a. I'm not lying. I have a copy of it on my phone somewhere because I recently watched this a few months ago. Anyway, the next scene, we see that Jessie is at her job doing the Santa picture thing, and she's dealing with this kid that won't smile for his picture, and the kid is a jerk, steps on her foot, storms off. Just as that, we see, and this is all kind of happening in like a mall food court type area.
It's a very small mall that they built in a studio.
Yeah, and I suspect that these sets are actually sets from something else, like a soap opera. Because number one, Saved by the Bell was a pretty low budget show. And any other time they've done something like there's earlier episodes where they go to the mall. And in that episode of the podcast, Mark Paul Gosselaar talks about how like they didn't have the money for those sets and they just used like other people's sets.
Right. Makes sense.
So anyways, where was I? Then we kind of pan over and we see that Zack is walking and he shoulder bumps really hard into this woman. She's like, "Hey, watch where you're going," all pissed. And he's like, "I'm sorry, didn't see you there." And then immediately starts flirting with her. He's like, "But I'm glad I bumped into you." And he gives her these eyes that if you're a woman and a man gave you these eyes that you don't know and you don't know him, you're going to be concerned for your safety.
Oh, I was concerned for Laura's safety. I was just like, wow, his primal lizard brain was immediately like ignited. And he was just immediately, he was just like, this is a woman that I can take advantage of.
Exactly. Which is every woman that he sees.
Any woman.
At least in his mind.
100%.
So anyway, Zack introduces himself. He had knocked over her lunch when he bumped into her, and he helps pick it up, and he's like, "Oh, you're just having an apple to eat?" And she says she's on a diet despite being pretty thin, so that's kind of our first clue about her.
He insults the woman's lunch and then asks her out. I love that.
Right. Yeah, and he's like, well, let me take you out to dinner or whatever. And she kind of agrees, and then she like walks off. And Zack tells Screech that there's something different about her. And Screech has this joke about how she's no different than any of the other girls in LA because they're all on a diet or something
which
like
is
that.
pretty good. I'll admit that's pretty funny.
Yeah, it's pretty funny. There's actually some pretty funny or clever
Sure.
lines in this.
A lot of them come from Screech too.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think Dustin Diamond actually has pretty good comedic timing.
100%.
Yeah. Anyway, so Screech is holding this baby doll that I guess he's going to give to one of the kids at the hospital because Lisa's going to hold like a party for them later on. Anyways, it pees all over him because he was wanting to see if it worked. And it won't stop peeing, so Zack and Screech run to the bathroom. While in the bathroom, and they go to the bathroom so Screech can get cleaned up. Zack's kind of waiting on Screech, but he's in the bathroom. And a man walks into the bathroom, and this man checks for change in the payphones that are in the bathroom. Steve, how many public restrooms have you been in that have payphones inside the bathroom?
That's a good point, because that'd be really weird. You're on the phone, and he's like, hey, Ma, can you pick me up? Like in the background, like
yeah, exactly.
I mean, yeah, it's a stretch, but I'll admit when I was watching this when I was like 12, I never questioned it. I was just like,
I mean, dude, I've watched. This is not the first time I've watched this as an adult, and I never questioned it until today. Maybe that's the kind of clarity I get from the Devil's Lettuce. I don't know, but
like I think they just wanted us to get a taste that this dude was homeless, like
right.
I think they were building up to him going over and
they wanted to give us a taste.
Yeah. Well, I'm just saying
homelessness.
They were building up to him like shaving at the at the public, sink. Which
it's the phrasing. It's the phrasing. That,
right. I got you.
Take question.
But I'm just trying to think like if there was like a better way or why they didn't just jump straight to it. I guess they're just like. I'm just imagining them sitting around in the writer's room.
Steve, this is world building. We're establishing characters. Steve, just take some notes, okay?
Right,
Steve?
right. Hey,
Peter Engel doesn't fuck around.
Say he's just the producer. I think you mean Barn Brick or whatever his name is. But
yeah, well, who do you think hired him? Peter Engel. Right. And it's his show. He's the creator. Steve, let me just continue. So
please do.
All right. So anyways, the guy that walks in, he checks for change inside for those that don't know, payphones would have like a little like slot at the bottom where if you didn't have exact change, it would spit out some change. So there's no spare change in there. Screech walks out of the stall. His pants are still wet. And the old man, or the guy, he's not really that old, but he says, hey, let me show you how to dry your hands off, dry your pants faster by using the hand dryer and tilting it towards your crotch.
Yeah, he's got a lot of fun little hobo solutions to, I don't know, third world problems.
He calls them
hobo-lutions to first world problems. Yeah.
So our homeless guy walks over to the sink. He starts shaving. And he almost faints while shaving. He gets lightheaded, and Zack sees this and asks him if he's okay. Homeless guy's like, no, I'm fine. I just didn't eat breakfast. And Zack, kind of whispers to Screech, hey, I think this guy's homeless. Zack begins a fucking awkward conversation where he just says, hey, do you live in the mall?
Now, I live in LA where we have I think it's the largest homeless collection in the country. I have to say, I've never really felt inspired to start a conversation with any of them. But I will say, very few of them look as classy as this homeless man here on Saved by the Bell is, though.
Yeah, you would not think he's homeless based off his appearance, at least. Anyways, so Screech, I didn't write down the jokes.
Yeah,
but
there's
makes, like,
so many
awkward,
like quips, you just can't write them all.
Yeah, he makes so many like weird comments. I wrote one later that Screech makes about the guy being poor, but just because it was so funny. But anyways, Zack leaves some money in one of the payphone change things and tells the homeless guy that he should check the payphones for money again. And then Zack tells him Merry Christmas, but in like a way, like he just solved, like he just changed this man's life. Is the way Zack says Merry Christmas
Well,
and
see,
the look he gives him.
Zack, he wanted to feel virtuous. Like, he wanted to feel like he played God. He was a god to this man. It's a very sort of
Zack is
sociopathic thing to do, basically. Yeah.
Yes. Zack is a bad guy who thinks he's the good
He's
guy. In the story,
very
you know?
Patrick Bateman from American Psycho. Yeah.
Yeah. And you know, the homeless man like goes and gets the money out of the payphone, and it's just I don't know.
His name is Frank,
we can't,
by the way, Frank Denton.
Yeah, his name is Frank. I feel like
Oh
they don't
no, yeah,
establish
they
that
don't
till
say
the
it till
second
later.
episode.
So you just don't have to call him homeless man. Is all I'm saying.
Yeah, good point. Anyways, it's like a few bills, so it's probably not a ton of money. But Zack said, you know, Merry Christmas, and the homeless guy says, "It will be a Merry Christmas thanks to you."
Yeah,
Really?
and then he went off and bought some sweet heroin. Is how it would work in the real world. Dang it! I was gonna make a point. I forgot what it was, but yeah. I mean, I don't know. It's kind of a touching scene, but yeah. Also, it's basically Zack. He feels like he has to make amends for all the all the women's lives he's ruined by giving a homeless man, you know, a little bit of coin. Oh, that's what I was gonna say.
Yeah.
As you will see throughout these 2 episodes, man, the Bayside gang, I don't know how old exactly they're supposed to be. I mean, they're in high school, so they've got to be at least.
Well, they say several times, like Zack says Jesse's 17.
Okay, so 17, that's what I was going to say. Like, man, they must have been loaded. Like, they just have so much money to throw around, and I don't know about you, but, like, I didn't have money to be giving around to, like, homeless people when I was 17. I barely had money myself.
Well, Zack is rich, like
Yeah,
that's
for
established. But him and Lisa are the only two that are rich. In fact, there's a whole episode where the whole episode is that like Kelly's Kelly. I'm talking about Kelly from ECW. That Kelly's family's gonna lose their house or something because they have like 6 or 7 kids.
Oh yeah, I remember that. But see, this is never
broke.
consistent because in this very same episode, or rather the part 2 that comes up, Kelly's like, "Oh, I'm just gonna go ahead and buy this suit for Laura, like it's nothing." Like, I mean, either.
Yeah, and even in the episode where Kelly's family is going to lose their house or whatever, they live in Zack's neighborhood, like in a nice neighborhood. Right. So,
just
Pig Dan 20 asks, "Is this show obscure?"
Well, Pig Dan, it isn't. But the fact that we're just doing a random Christmas episode, that's what sort of makes it obscure. That's how we.
Yeah, we're going with this is like an episode that's
right.
Not
There you go. That's how we justify it. We got to get those downloads, buddy. I mean, one of these days we're gonna get to 1,000 subs on YouTube, and I think this is how we're gonna do it. We'll see.
Yeah, with Zack's schemes.
Exactly.
So, anyways, we cut then to another scene where Kelly and Laura, again the girl that Zack bumped into earlier, they're at a store, Moody's, they both work at. Zack walks in and asks Laura for a date again. So I guess earlier she didn't really agree. She just kind of walked off. There's some pretty good banter here with Kelly making jokes about Zack. Again, I think she makes some like joke alluding to her not being safe, or her only being safe with him if, I don't know, what does she say? Oh, like Zack walks in and says, "Oh, I'm looking for a woman," and Kelly's like, "Oh, we don't sell those here," or something like that.
But yeah, you're right though. She does say like, "Oh, Zack's a great guy as long as you, damn."
As long as security is around,
like that. Yeah. As long as you have, you just get your cell phone, dial 911, and then if anything bad happens, press the 1. And
he wrote, "When you cover, look well. You'll hit a 10K
I hope you're right,
subs."
buddy. I hope you're right.
All right. So, anyways, the homeless man, Frank, the homeless man from earlier, we kind of see him waving into the store, and it kind of looks like he's waving at Zack and Screech, but we don't know at this point that he's also Laura's father. So who knows who he's waving at? But this is funny because Kelly says, Zack and Screech mentioned to Kelly that he's homeless, and Kelly says he's homeless, that poor man. And then Screech has this great deadpan delivery reply where he says, "Of course he's poor. That's why he's homeless." And then Screech walks off shaking his head like Kelly's an idiot.
Yeah, that was funny, and that causes Frank to just sort of mosey on so he doesn't embarrass his own daughter.
Yeah. So Zack talks about how they're all still at the same Moody store, about how he gave the homeless guy money earlier.
He has to tell everybody how virtuous he is.
Right. I'm so great. And he tells, he's talking to Laura, and he's like, "Oh, I just hope he spends it on food." She's like, "What do you mean?" And he's like, "Well, you could be a wino or worse."
I think he meant, drug addict, which they kind of mostly are.
Oh, wow. Zack Honeycutt once again strikes.
I'm just telling you what I've encountered out here in LA. And Bayside is supposed to be in California, so...
I would argue that the homeless people that maybe have it are maybe more similar to Frank, who have it a little bit more together and aren't drug addicts. You just may not realize that they're homeless.
That's true. That's very true. You way to put me in my place.
Yeah. So why don't you check? Let me quote Captain Kirk and tell you. Why don't you check your prejudices at the door if you're going to be on my bridge?
I'm going to quote Captain Kirk. Con! Eh?
All right, moving on.
It's the only quote I know.
So Laura gets upset at hearing Zack, say this about homeless people. And she says, "Forget the date. I lost my appetite," and she storms off.
See, I wrote down in my notes that Zack laid down some real-world knowledge, and it was too real for Laura, so she stormed off.
Wow. Well, I hope I've laid some real-world knowledge down on YouTube.
Yeah, by quoting.
It's the Christmas season. You're being a real Mr. Moody.
I just need some more devil's lettuce, and I'll be okay.
I see. Well, and they just need a little more heroin, Steve. So I guess you're not that different from the homeless people.
Except for I actually have a home.
Wow. Okay.
Want to go to the Trump rally with me later?
No. Oh, Jesus Christ. Back for the break, we see that Screech is approaching Lisa. They're back kind of at the mall food court area. She's sitting down. He's wearing like a hat, those hats that would normally have like a propeller, but he's attached like a thing with a mistletoe instead that's like hanging above, and he's like trying to get a kiss from Lisa. And he says something like, "Oh, doesn't this mistletoe make you want to do something?" And she's like, "Yeah, leave."
Yeah, classic Lisa
so
Screech
she gets up,
banter. Yeah.
But anyways, Laura approaches the gang and she sees Zack, so she tries to leave, but Zack won't let a woman escape.
Grasp. Yeah.
And he grabs her and apologizes to her. And this is very good self-reflection on Zack's part. He says, "Hey, I'm sorry. I'm just ignorant about homeless people and their situations." And he recognizes that it's because he's rich, and he's like, I'm so affluent that, to me, like, this isn't supposed to be a joke, but it sounds like he's making a joke. He's like, "I think in my neighborhood, poor people are the ones who don't have cable."
Yeah, that is funny. And sad.
Yeah. But you can relate. You had the Disney Channel via satellite.
Only because we lived out in the middle of nowhere.
You had an estate, is what you're saying, miles away from the commoner.
It was a pretty big house, I'll admit it. And we just had one moat and one black knight to keep people off the property. That's all. Yeah,
I see. This sounds like you live at the Dragon's Lair house, by the way. But
in my mind, I never left it.
Yeah, Pig Dad 20 was mentioning that this is quite strange out of context, the show. Yes, it is.
That's the idea.
Hey, Smoke Monsters here. Welcome to the chat,
what
Smoke.
Up, Smoke?
Appreciate you. But back to the show. So Anyways, Kelly and Slater rush to Zach's rescue and try to convince Laura to give Zach a chance. I think actually here's where Kelly makes the quip about you'll be fine as long as you have security guard around.
And I also liked, I can't remember if it was here or previously when they were in Moody's, because Slater also was basically being a good friend slash wingman, something you would know nothing about. And he was like, yeah, you got to give Preppy a chance. And they do their sort of little handshake on the side so she can't see. And I'm just boys will be boys.
Yeah. I always liked Zack and
it was
Slater's
awesome
relationship. It's fun. They're bros, but they give each other shit all the time. And sometimes they have, to quote one Dr. Sanchez from Dr. Murphy's Dark Place, they have their punch-ups from time to time.
You and he were buddies, weren't you?
For those who haven't seen Garth Marenghi's Dark Place, I'm sorry, both for you not understanding the reference and for not.
Hang back, Sanchez. I got this one.
Anyways, so she agrees. She, being Laura, agrees to go on a date with Zack. But like I said, we're gonna find out later that Laura's homeless. She's Frank's daughter, so maybe this is just eating for survival on her part, the chance for a free meal. So you can't turn that down. So then we have Zack and Laura sit down, and Laura asks if she could eat one of his chips, but she eats all of them. And Zack has a couple of jokes about that, and they keep hanging out. Laura says that she lives with her dad and that he's in between jobs. Because Zack's kind of trying to find out where she lives, more about her life.
Yeah,
she's being real vague.
Questions.
Yeah. So she's being real vague. And then they I guess they went to a movie or got a burger and ice cream, whatever. But then Zack suggests that she goes takes a picture with Santa, and she's like, "You're so crazy," and she can't say no to him. He grabs her hand, takes her. She can't say no. This man is her source of food.
And also,
right now.
I mean, it's the implication that if you say no to Zack, something might happen.
Yeah, and she, when she says you're crazy. There is a little desperation in her voice.
You're crazy. Yeah, you're right. That's exactly how it came out.
Okay, maybe it's a little bit more positive when she says it. But anyway, so we go to the photo booth with
Jesse.
Smoke said she'll love for chips. So we get to the photo booth, which is the one that Jesse's working at. And the kid from earlier apologizes to Jesse because his mom told him to apologize for being mean. But then he calls her an old, ugly hag or something like that. And
he's not going to be getting a Blu-ray copy of Showgirls for Christmas after that.
No, he's not. Little did he know he would be masturbating to her in just a few short years.
Wow. All right. Well, thanks for taking it there.
Yeah. Anyway, so they get a photo with Santa. Laura and Zack do. By the way, they cut in front of
Right,
line
of course, because Zack is
and
more important than everybody else in this world.
So, and I want to talk about the Santa here. So this is a good Santa that they got to play the part. Laura whispers in Santa's ear when he says, "What do you want for Christmas?" And Laura won't tell him what he wants, and Santa says, "It's on me." And I want to talk about Santa now because I need to mention something about him at the end of the show that you might have missed. Okay. So, because basically, I think this is vaguely one of those Santa is actually real stories.
I was thinking that, actually.
Yeah, and I'll explain a little bit more later once we get to the very end.
Just like from
part
Spectacular Spider-Man number 122, which we covered last week?
Yes. Except this Santa doesn't have a gun.
But the real Santa showed up at the end, though. You know that.
Yeah, that's true. All right. Anyways, so Zack and Laura get their photo with Santa. Then they bump into Zack's mom, who said something to her, like warning her about her son. She's like, "Oh, you better watch out for my son. First, he'll bribe you with candy canes, and next, it'll be chocolate kisses."
Yeah. So, I mean, in other words, she's okay with it. Like, it's just, it's another boys will be boys scenario.
It's a warning to her, to Laura / hey, this is what you're getting into.
My son pulls down a lot of tail. He's the He's the Ric Flair of Bayside, so watch out. Get ready for your ride on Space Mountain.
So Zach's mom invites Laura to join their production of A Christmas Carol that's also going to be at the mall in the food court as well.
I'm sure that would go over great.
But in the
life.
90s, the mall was kind of like a holiday hub for this kind of stuff. So this is not out of the realm of possibility. Pig Dad 20, what the hell is it? Is this the Predator's Christmas special?
Basically,
yes, it is.
Scott, what's that guy's name again? Chris Hansen shows up at the end. Yeah.
Yes, he should have. So, anyways, she says, "Okay, well, I don't know if I can get time off from work. I just started there, but I'll try." Laura leaves, and then Zach's mom says to Zach, "Have you decided what you want for Christmas?" And Zach, looking like he's watching Laura's ass as she walks away, he goes, "I think I do know what I want." And Zach's mom just looks at Zach like, "I don't think I have a box big enough for her." Like pokes him in the ribs, and like she's basically like Slater.
She is. Like I said, like everybody is okay with Zach Morris and his sexual predator persona. Like everyone's and because I guess they know if they go against it, bad things are gonna happen, baby. Bad things.
Zach's rich. He can make people disappear, and in the reboot, he's the governor of California. So he's got.
Have you seen
power.
Zach Morris's laptop? There's some awful stuff on there.
There is. Anyways, Pig Dan 20 in the chat commented, "Good old nostalgia, saved from the hell," which that's what she was trying to help with. But anyways, back at the gift wrapping booth, Lisa is getting like frustrated with Slater because he's like, not only is he wrapping her present slowly, but he's doing a terrible job. This is like a running joke throughout both episodes. And Slater somehow tied his finger into the present's bow.
Yeah, it's like lame-o, slapstick, kind of Three Stooges stuff.
Yeah, like because like Lisa goes to pull the present from him, but like his finger's stuck in it, and so now it's like, oh, we got to get this out. Our homeless man Frank is that. Now I'm just saying homeless man Frank instead of just Frank. So it's worse. You've made it worse, or I've made it worse. So Frank is there at the booth. So he helps. And he fixes the bow, and Lisa's like, "Oh, this is beautiful," and she walks away. Slater's like, "Hey, how can I repay you?" Frank says, "Well, you can just help me by giving me some of those wrapping scraps that you have in the trash that you're gonna throw away." And Slater says, "No, let me give you a brand new roll." And there's a joke here about how because Slater says something to him like, "Hey, once you bought your gift or whatever, if you want, bring it to me and I'll wrap it." And the homeless guy is like, "It's okay, I've seen your work."
Right. Yeah, I mean, you'd think Slater would have been fired by now, but then we would miss out on the, hilariousness of him, continuing to screw up more gift wrapping. And
there's actually a pretty funny like wrapping present joke that a little kid makes about Slater in episode 2.
It's a callback,
and it gives something for the side characters to do because, like you said, they're not like the main story. Like it's weird, like these 2 episodes, they have an A story, and most sitcoms and Saved by the Bell have like a B story, but there's like a B, C, and D story here. Like just about everybody has like their own little side
they had
story.
to have something to do. Like this is basically they had to find stuff for all the other cast members to do, and I think they were also given the mandate. It's like we have to have as much like Christmas cosplay as possible because we get them dressing up coming up soon as
episode 2.
This episode first is Santa Claus characters, and then
that's right. Yeah,
coming up as Christmas Carol characters. So that was the mandate laid down from one Peter Engel.
Smoke Monster in the chat said, "Isn't it just multiple B stories?" Yeah, I guess that's probably the correct term for it. But anyways, so we I'll look at my notes. So the homeless man Frank, he walks away, and then we see that he's collapsed in the mall, in the food court, which is the only part of the mall that we're really gonna see mostly see.
The funny
and then
the
like
funny
Zack,
thing here is that like they don't really like hear him collapse. It's like just, and they don't show it, of course, because they'd have to like, I guess, hire a stunt person or something. They're just sort of, they're only like a couple of feet away, and then all of a sudden,
Well, it's the opposite end of the mall. It's just the set's not very big, but it's technically like way
that's
over
how
by,
it was supposed to be.
where the
like,
yeah, because it's over by where they're doing the Christmas
Right,
pictures,
right.
which is like the opposite end of the from the gift wrapping booth. So yeah, because like Zack and Slater are like, oh, what's all the commotion? And then they go over there. They see that the guy's passed away, or not passed away,
Right,
passed
right.
out, and they're like, and I think it's Screech oh no, Slater says call 911, and Screech says I'll do it. What's the number?
even when a man could possibly be dying, they throw in some Screech joke.
Yeah, you gotta throw in a
Screech
joke.
jokes. Yeah,
you know,
that's funny and weird a little bit.
yeah. So then the next scene is back to Moody's clothing store where Laura and Kelly are talking about Zack and Kelly. And it's weird because, like, you know, some episodes, like, Kelly and Zack would be an item, then the next one they're
Right.
not an item. And whenever they're not an item, if Zack isn't interested in Kelly that episode, if it's some girl of the week, Kelly's totally
Right.
cool about it and is always, like, wingmanning for him. It's very... I mean, I guess it's good. It's healthy,
Kelly's just
right?
the
I guess,
coolest
but,
chick in all of Bayside.
yeah. Kelly, I guess Kelly just knows in the end she's gonna get Zack, you know, so she doesn't care.
Because they did get married in that TV movie, the Las Vegas one.
Yep, and they brought back the same actress to play Zack's
wow,
mom.
wow, good for her.
Yeah. Anyways, so Kelly is like talking to Laura. She's like, "Oh, you're thinking about Zack again, aren't you?" And anyways, Laura asks Mr. Moody for time off to be in the play, but he gets mad and says no, and he complains about. She's basically acting like Mr. Scrooge. He's like, everybody expects him to be nice because it's Christmas, yada yada. Then the rest of the Saved by the Bell gang walks into the store. They tell Kelly and Laura about the homeless man that passed away and that he was sent to the hospital, and we see Laura looks quite concerned.
Indeed.
All right, so now we fast forward to the hospital where, like you were talking about, the gang is dressed up in Christmas costumes. Zack is dressed up as Santa. Kelly is like Mrs. Claus. I think like Dustin Screech was a
Right.
reindeer, and Slater is a elf. And of course, they made his outfit
So
sleeveless.
you can see those guns,
'cause
baby.
They were always looking for ways to show AC Slater shirtless or sleeveless, you know, any chance they got to show off his muscles. Yeah, actually, this is the scene I was thinking about. Slater, they like start handing out presents, and Slater gives a little kid a present, and the kid is like, "Who wrapped this?" Like he like makes fun of
Right.
the wrapping job, and Slater's like, "Hey, man, it's what's inside that counts." And the kid goes, "Oh, I get it. You did this."
And he's like, "Come here, you little squirt." And he like grabs him by the collar and just sort of pulls him away.
and just picks him up and walks off camera like he's going
Rough
to go
him up.
like beat
yeah,
him up.
Slater roughed up a kid off of camera. Wow. Merry Christmas to him.
Yeah. So yeah, then I don't know. Somebody talks about how like it'd be better if there was snowing, but it never or snows in LA or something like that. And as Santa, Zack says, "Are you sure it's not snowing or something like that?" And he makes it snow inside the hospital. And again, like I said earlier, Zack has the ability to freeze time.
He can make it snow.
So this is like
indoors.
not even that
He's
outlandish.
like Thanos with the Infinity Gauntlet over here. He can just do anything.
Yeah.
One
Yeah.
thing I'd like to mention is they talk to a nurse, and she's like, for whatever reason, she has to be a
Oh, very thirsty.
slutty
very
nurse.
horny.
Yeah, she basically is. I'm just like, why? Like, I'm like, I feel like the writers, they're just like, look, this show is for teens, so we gotta sex it up as much as possible. And it's like,
Yeah,
we never
yeah.
see this character again. She's just there. I can't remember exactly what information she delivers.
So they want to know what they want to visit.
They want to know where Frank is.
and they don't know what room he's in. And Lisa's like, "Oh, this nurse handles intakes."
Oh,
or
yes,
whatever.
she does. She handles all kinds of intakes.
Yeah. And like Lisa's like, "Hey, we're looking for a man," and she goes, "Oh, Me too, but all the ones here are either too old or in a coma.
It's like you could still have a good time,
I can't
Miss
remember.
Nurse. Like just as long as no one's watching.
Yeah, and then she says something like, "Oh no, we're looking for Frank, the homeless guy that came in." And she goes, he's a little too old for me." Like, God, just give him the fucking
They
room
just
number.
had to have as many quips as possible in this. It's yeah.
Yeah. So, anyways, I mean, actually, and her jokes are pretty clever.
I mean, it's
funny.
just weird, a little weird. That's all.
Yeah, it's weird. It's weird because it's like the gang from Saved by the Bell is always either having conversations that you'd have like, kids that are teens or preteens have, or a conversation that somebody that's 37.
Yeah, they're either like teen conversations or like softcore porn like dialogue, basically.
Yeah. So, anyways, the gang goes and visits the homeless man Frank in his room, and as they open the door, they find that Laura is already sitting there visiting with him, and she says that they ask her, "What are you doing here?" She says, "This man is my father." So the gang looks stunned, realizing that Laura is also homeless, and we get a to be continued.
But in Zack's mind, he's just like, "This isn't the first homeless girl I mated with."
Yeah. Zack's just pretending to look surprised or concerned, but he knows that he can use this being homeless to his advantage.
The implication. I mean, he doesn't have to spend as much money on her as he usually would on a regular girl.
Yeah. Wow. I mean, you're completely accurate. But anyway, so then we go to the credits, and did you notice who it said played Santa Claus in the closing credits?
I did not.
It says Santa Claus was played by himself.
Oh, wow. That's mind-blowing stuff there.
So I assume that they did this for two reasons. One is, I think, because, spoiler alert, there's a happy ending to the story. And presumably like what Laura tells, the Santa Claus is that she wants her dad, to get a job and a home or something like that.
Oh, really? That's what she was saying? I thought she was telling Santa to get Zack away from her, to get her some help.
Yeah. Save me.
And Santa was like, not even I can stand up to the great Zack Morris. He gets to do what he wants.
Yeah. Santa's like, I'm sorry. I'm on the Morris payroll. You see, I'm a Morris company Santa Claus. Man.
I'm a company man. I do what Zack says.
He's like a corrupt Pinkerton or something.
Nice Pinkerton reference. I didn't see that coming. Yeah.
Thank you. But anyways, the other reason why I think they have it say that it's himself is because, although mostly teens and preteens, I feel like watch the show, little kids would watch it too. You don't want to ruin the illusion, so I think that's part of it too, which I think that was very correct.
100%. And so, shall we? That
wraps up part one, Steve. Would you like to take us through part two?
I just got tagged in. Here we go.
Thought you were doing the Zack time in.
Damn it, I should have. Too late. All right, so Zack talks to the camera, telling us what happened last episode, because obviously this episode happened an entire week later. And they didn't have such things as streaming and TiVo.
But he's not just talking about it. He's talking directly to the camera. He's doing one of his fourth wall breaks.
Right, yeah. It's his Ferris Bueller fourth wall, catching you up and everything. And then we are in the hospital room, and Zack asked Laura why she didn't tell them that he was her dad. And let's see. And then he pretty much invites Laura and her dad to dinner, mentions that his dad was out of town. And I'm just like, and this begged the question to me, like, did we ever get any episodes where we got to see both of Zack's parents at the same time? Because it always seemed like you got one or the other.
I feel like there is one episode at least, because I think they talked about it on the podcast. But, I mean, you might be right. I do definitely remember them. I don't remember seeing them together.
Right. And do you remember Zack's dad? He was basically Patrick Bateman, like your typical 80s guy in a suit with a cell phone. Yeah, which makes sense.
He like runs or owns like a computer company or something.
And yeah, I mean, it's it just shows it's pretty sad that Zach's dad is out of town, like around Xmas or Christmas. I mean, even though I think they imply that he's going to show up actually on Christmas. But I mean, it makes sense why Zack, feels like he just gets to do whatever he wants because he doesn't have a strong male role model around to discipline him.
Yeah. And in the Saved by the Bell Peacock reboot, or I guess it's more of a continuation. It's not really a reboot. Where Zack is the governor, he's become kind of the same kind of father.
Wow. Damn, that hits hard. Cats in the cradle with the silver spoon, and so on. So now they're in Zack's living room. They had just finished what we can only assume is like a 6-course meal of lobster, steak, and God knows what else. And Laura's dad tells them how he
probably like had some adrenochrome soup with the rest of those dirty George Soros funded politicians. Well, also birds, they're not real, Steve.
Right.
I'm glad I got that off my chest.
Birds aren't real, 100%.
It's Lisa Turtle, not Lisa Bird. You know what I'm saying, dog?
Wow. Well, I think you've just revealed a lot about yourself there. Please continue. All right, anyway. So he basically says how, he lost his job and he keeps getting passed over for future work because he only has one crumpled suit. And then they try to convince them to stay, but Laura and their dad leave. And now we are back at the mall. Zack helps his mom set up for the Christmas play. Laura enters and Zack offers to buy her breakfast. Laura says she has to go to work, and then Zack goes, "Haven't you ever heard of fast food?" And then Zack offers her donuts. And now we are back at Mr. Moody's. Laura is admiring this suit, and she says it would be perfect for her dad. And then Kelly encourages her to ask Mr. Moody for money in advance and says that, he'll be perfectly okay with it, which I'm like, Kelly, what dream world do you live in? Because Mr. Moody has been nothing but an asshole every time he's been on screen. Like, why would she even think that he would be cool with it?
Well, I think, it kind of speaks to Kelly actually is affluent, and she just thinks money is like meaningless. Like she's just working here for fun, basically.
I would say there's probably a little bit of that, and also she's kind of maybe the sort of an optimist, very.
She is always very positive and bubbly. You're right.
A deluded optimist. So Mr. Moody, so of course Laura goes and approaches him and asks, and of course he says no. And then Kelly takes it upon herself to tell Mr. Moody that Laura is homeless. And he's like, "I wish I would have known that in advance. I never would have hired her. Those people steal things." And then Zack shows up dressed as Bob Cratchit, a very affluent looking Bob Cratchit from A Christmas Carol. And then Zack, and this is another time where he just has the ability to fix all problems because, this is Zack's world and everyone else is just living in it.
Living in it.
Yeah, he convinces Mr. Moody to let Laura be in the play. And we don't really see how he convinces him or what exactly is said.
Well, he does like go talk to him, and he tells him that he has a way to like double his store's profits.
Right. It's like
his business.
It's like hey, I've got a plan, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Then Kelly,
because we actually didn't get a Zack scheme in the first episode. Usually, every episode of Saved by the Bell, he's like working on some kind of scheme.
I mean, his scheme was to bed the one homeless maiden, Laura. That was his scheme.
Fair.
So Kelly grabs the jacket that Laura likes so much, and she basically sets it aside to pay for it later. And then that's when I realized, I was like, wow, like the Bayside crew just had so much money to throw around. I mean, it's a full man's suit, so we can only assume that. And yet you said in future episodes, Kelly's about to lose her house. So, I mean, it's just one of those things where they become whatever they need to be for the plot for the episode at the time.
Right. And it was an earlier episode 2 from another season. So I guess Kelly's dad is back on his feet.
Right. Kelly's dad and Zach's dad are off dealing drugs somewhere, or probably day trading, something like that. So now we are at the aforementioned play, and Zach's mom is sort of introducing the play to the very small crowd around them, because that's all they could fit onto the soundstage. And she says that Zach's changes might not go over too well. And so we jump into the play. And, basically this, I guess it's a very typical, much like we saw in the past episodes, like with one Qbert, where they're reenacting the Thanksgiving dinner or whatever, where, you take your established characters and you put them in something public domain, like Christmas Carol, and that's exactly what we're getting here. And, most of the scenes I didn't find very funny, but basically the whole point of this is that Zack basically writes in a commercial for Mr. Moody's store into the play. And just to go through all of the characters here that the Bayside Gang was playing, it's Zack was playing Bob Cratchit. Screech is Scrooge, which is pretty funny to watch him do that, I will admit that. Slater is Tiny Tim, which I guess it's supposed to be funny because he's not tiny at all. And then the other characters were just doing other side characters that aren't really named, I guess, or that I couldn't think of the name off the top of my head. But I don't know how you felt, but I felt like this play went on forever.
Yeah, I think it was like 4 or 5 minutes at least, maybe even 6 minutes. They did a lot more of the play, and I in a way I get it, because like they're basically wanting to do like a part of the play where it's like straight up Christmas Carol to then build to like Zach's scheme, which is like him throwing in, oh, you look so good. Where'd you get that at? Moody's clothing store, stuff like that.
Yep.
So I get it, because if they had done those jokes right off the bat, it wouldn't have like landed as well. So I get what they were trying to do, but instead it doesn't quite work the way I think they wanted it to. Instead, you're kind of like, Jesus, how long is this going to go on?
Yeah, it felt like filler a bit, but
they should have just done everything in slow motion for a bit instead.
Right, and just have Zach monologue over it. So now we are at Moody's store. Laura enters and asks about the jacket. The clerk, who was never really named, she says that, but we can only assume, had horny thoughts. She says someone bought it, and then Laura looks dejected. Moody shows up and accuses Laura of stealing it. And then she pretty much runs away, and then Zack and Kelly show up and lay down some truth on Mr. Moody, and then they run out in search of Laura. And the gang meets in the mall, and they all like basically split up to search for Laura. And what do they like? I get that they really want to find her because she's in an emotional state, but like, what do they think she's gonna do?
I don't know.
Because it's
I
like,
don't know. Maybe they're.
Oh, I want to hear.
Nothing. Maybe they just think that she's going to. I don't know.
Away.
A strong gust of wind is going to take her away if she goes outside. She is pretty thin.
Well, that's from all the drugs her and her dad were doing. Obviously.
Oh, right, drugs. Yes. Yes.
But yeah, so I guess it's just hard to kind of buy the urgency. But not too hard. It's just like, oh, we better go look for Laura. I don't know. Maybe they think they're gonna run away. I don't know. Anyway, so they're searching, and then we are at a Christmas tree farm, and Zack and Mom they are at the Christmas tree farm, and Zack is still busy thinking about Laura, and Mom is basically like, hey, Zack, baby, you gotta relax and let this one go. We need to buy a Christmas tree. It's time for some Christmas cheer. So Mom's moved on. I don't know what that says about Mom.
Yeah.
Maybe she's the sociopath that Zack is taking after, but she's like, yeah, forget that dame, Zack. You know, they're a dime a dozen for you, my son. You can have any girl you want. And I'm paraphrasing here. She doesn't actually say any of this stuff. But, you know, it's you got to read between the lines.
Means it, but that is what she means by her actions, her tone, the looks she gives
Subtext.
Zack.
It's all about the subtext.
Yeah, that's right, Steven.
So,
I appreciate your excellent and expert analysis.
that's why I'm here, buddy. So while they're going, I guess, to look at a tree or to think about looking at a tree, a dude comes up and asks a man in a car to move the car because they need it for other people parking there. And the guy gets out, and we see that it's one Frank Denton, a.k.a. Laura's dad. And Zack sees him, and he explains everything to Laura and Dad about, I guess, the miscommunication with Mr. Moody and everything, and Kelly taking the jacket. Then Zack and the gang all return to Zack's living room, and then Mr. Moody shows up and apologizes and gives the jacket to Laura, which I can say, of course, there's a lot of problems and a lot of suspension of disbelief here, but I thought like the plot and kind of the setups and payoffs were pretty decent in this, and to have him
I agree.
show up, I mean, this is basically your Mr. Scrooge moment here,
right?
Where the most angry character finally shows some humanity and gives the jacket, and then Laura's dad tries on the jacket, and of course it fits perfect despite no one ever measuring him or anything, but whatever, it's just a TV show.
And by the way, I loved how when the jacket was at the store, it was the only one of this sport coat that the store had.
Right.
And because when Laura finds out that when Laura thinks that the jacket has been sold, she's like, oh no. And even Mr. Moody later, when he's like, oh, what happened to I think I lost you.
No, I'm here. Are you?
Oh, your video's frozen.
Oh.
It's back. Anyways, even when Mr. Moody walks into the store and he doesn't see the jacket, he's like, what happened to the jacket? Like, it's like the jacket. Like,
right.
I assume Mr. Moody had like a big meeting when the jacket came into the store. And everybody gather around. I need to discuss, everybody, something very important today. We have a jacket in.
Direct from the Men's Warehouse. You're going to like the way you look. Yeah. Yeah, I feel like they could have been like, all right, this is a one-of-a-kind jacket. It's a such and such jacket, and we only get a certain amount of these per year, and this is the last one left. Like, they could have sold it,
maybe,
but they didn't. But they,
Now, what I found really funny is that there's a coat rack in camera, very visible, that has like 4 other sport coats.
Right.
They're different color, so they're not the same one, but multiple of a sport coat. So
this is what everyone was wearing in Silicon Valley back then, and if he didn't get it, he was never going to get another job. Basically, is what.
Well, I guess maybe like this sport coat like is one that's known for like getting you a job immediately. Right. You walk in, they're like, "Well, Frank, I don't think I need to see or hear anything else. I saw the sport coat you walked in with. That's a Moody's."
Like, yeah, you shop at the Men's Warehouse, and so do I. So you're in. Get in there, buddy. You're hired. So Zack makes Laura kiss him, and Laura says she wishes there was something that she could give to Zack.
Wait a minute, Steve. You are underselling this. Like, this kiss. Because Zack doesn't just make her kiss her. Like, the situation that he creates, this predatory situation. Think about this. Everybody's there. Zack's family, like his mom is there, Laura's there, her dad is there, the gang, these new friends. And Laura earlier has talked about how, like, oh, I miss having friends. So, like, Laura's, like, really found a sense of community here, and Zack knows this. And Zack knows that Laura doesn't want to let anything happen that may damage this newfound joy in her life. So Zack says, when she says, oh, I wish there was something I could give you or whatever she says, and he's like, you could give me a kiss, and he like points to himself. Like, how could she say no? And like her dad is like, fuck, I guess you have to kiss this guy in front of me because
right,
fuck, I need a place to stay. It's cold, it's winter, and I'm hungry.
Yeah, they got me the jacket, and
Yeah.
I mean, why I would say it's a page right out of the Velazquez handbook. I mean, more or less.
Yeah, no, I will not agree to that. But
I'm just making sure you're paying attention.
and the thing is that like Frank was in the hospital because he had
Hadn't been
not
eating
been eating
enough.
enough.
Malnourishment. Yep.
Yeah, basically malnourished. So I mean, this is a life or death kiss potentially.
So Zack and his mom have been fattening him up, like and Laura,
Oh.
fattening them both up to win them over, so Zack could make sweet love to homeless Laura.
Oh, I thought this was gonna end in Zack and his mom eating them.
I mean, metaphorically fattening them up, not literally.
Well, I mean, Zack does want to eat Laura, but like that's something else altogether.
Oh, hickory dickory dock. Hey, the
Yeah,
dice
yeah.
man. Yeah.
But speaking of like fattening them up, do you remember like how much food Laura and Frank said they ate during dinner?
Because Zach's mom was like, "Hey, do you want another piece of pie?" And he's like, "No, 3 is my limit." Oh, the plot
Yeah.
thickens here.
And then Laura asked Laura like if she wanted anything else, and she says that she ate like 5 potatoes and like 3 lamb chops.
We call that the Irish diet, basically. Yeah.
Like holy shit!
Wow. I mean,
But
man, how
anyways.
much food do like Zach and his mom like have stored up in their mansion? Jeez.
Yeah. Maybe the dad eats a lot of starch-heavy foods or something because it's not a potato.
Maybe. But so Zach finally gets, well, at least a precursor to what he wants, and that, of course, is to bed the Lady Laura. And but I guess in order to make a show that, maybe they're not going to go have sex later, Laura says she wishes there was something she could give to Zach, and then her dad is like, "Oh, I know." And God, this is the worst, like, schmaltzy, like, sitcom cliche that, I mean, no one does this anymore, thank God, because it's so played out. But her dad sits at a nearby piano, and they all sing and play Silent Night. The end.
Jingle Bells, actually.
No, it was Silent Night.
Oh, wasn't it? I thought it was like an upbeat. Okay.
No,
My bad.
it was Silent Night.
Well, it
And-
doesn't matter, whatever it is.
Yeah, whatever it is, I didn't want it.
Well, the funny thing is that I had read that Stephen Mendel, the guy that plays Frank, that the very first thing in his IMDb is Stephen Mendel began singing at age 8.
Oh, so you think he was cast because of his musical ability?
I think that was probably like something that played into it because he is like legitimately singing in this, and he's on pitch. His daughter Laura is not as good. She's little questionable here and there.
Oh,
but,
listen to Simon Cowell over here.
well, I don't know. I mean, all I'm saying is maybe if she wasn't eating 5 potatoes at a time, her career would be going better, Steve. As Simon Cowell.
Right. Thin tummies make for powerful vocalists. Is that what you're saying there?
I don't know.
Something along.
Because,
those lines.
nothing is better than singing when you're lightheaded from not eating, right?
Right. Of course. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good point. Whew. Well, anything else to add before we render our verdict?
No, I'm ready.
Let's do it.
Remember before I rated it. That's the question.
All right, Mr. Velazquez, or Tiny Tim Velazquez? I don't know. Do you think, I'm trying to make it Christmassy. I've been failing miserably. Do you think Saved by the Bell, Home for Christmas, Parts 1 and 2, should be remembered for all of human history or tossed in the black hole of obscurity, never to be heard from again?
I say remember it. I think it does a good job of being a Saved by the Bell show or episode while still kind of like getting some of your typical Christmas spirity type stuff in it. There's some genuinely like funny moments in it. I was actually surprised at how much I laughed at it. So yeah, what about you, Steve? You Bayside Tiger, you?
Am I being hit on by another sociopath here?
The Saved by the Bell kids, they went to a school called Bayside.
Yeah, I know. And then
And their mascot was a tiger. Oh, I
right,
thought
but
maybe
you were
didn't know.
saying
I
it
was-
very suggestively, like one AC or Zach Morris might say.
I'm sorry, like Zack and his mom are just really rubbing off on me.
Watch out, women of Tampa.
Yeah, I mean, I keep apologizing anytime I say something I shouldn't, but she says it's okay, so
right.
it's fine.
So, do you think your mom will be as understanding as Zach's mom?
No, she's too old to know what's going on.
Wow.
Thanks for the reminder.
It just got kind of depressing here. Okay, so yeah, I think this is definitely a better Christmas episode than it is a Saved by the Bell episode. I prefer, to have more interaction with the rest of the gang, but they fit them in as best they could. I definitely chuckled here and there, and I enjoyed, dissecting Zach Morris and his predatory instincts and plans here. So
definitely one of his less asshole-ish episodes.
Oh, yeah. But I like how it still teetered. It really did come off like Patrick Bateman from American Psycho.
Yeah. It's like Zach Morris is like, man, he wants so bad to not be who he really is.
Right.
And he thinks he succeeds, but he really does. I don't know.
Right. I just want to hear Zach say, I'm going to return some videotapes before, running away from a murder scene.
I hate when they do like gritty reboots of shows, but I think a gritty spin-off of Zack exploring his strange psychological anyways. Go on,
and I'll say one thing. I was disappointed that Mr. Belding was not in this episode because I love some Mr. Belding, but of course I'm gonna go with a remembered here. Now, do you think you would ever watch it again? Would you watch this every year?
Maybe with friends that were also grew up watching Saved by the Bell. That would be fun.
Some friends around, but all right, here's the remembered bumper.
In accordance to Obscurity Now, the most important streaming YouTube podcast in all of the internet, you shall be remembered. Yes. Good show. Good show.
All right, yeah, good times. I wanted to point out in the Obscuratron here, there's a picture of the Bayside gang, and it looks like Lisa's throwing up a gang symbol. Did you see it by any chance?
No, I did not notice it. I'll have to wait for it to come by, but that's pretty funny.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, well, that was a good time. And next week, what is it exactly that we're watching? A Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Christmas special? Is that what it is?
Yeah, so I forgot I had sent that to you.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to remember what it's called. I know I sent you the link for it, right?
Right. Well, I guess we'll just have to figure out it later. But I mean, hey, who doesn't love the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles? And Pig Dan, I think this is obscure enough for you because I mean I've never seen this Christmas special, and it's one with
it's called "We Wish You a Turtle Christmas,"
and it's with the live action turtles, right? Not the cartoon.
Yeah, it's with the live action turtles. It's 22 minutes long.
Nobody likes that shit.
It's here on YouTube, and actually, for anybody that wants to watch it ahead of time, I'm gonna drop, as the kids say, the link here in the chat.
Drop it like it's hot.
Yeah.
Cool yet?
I'll say this. It starts off with a song, a rap-ish kind of, not song, but yeah.
Right. Well, if there's a rap.
And the turtles are doing the singing.
Oh boy. This is going to be awesome. I can't wait. And of course, at the beginning of the show, we ran a bumper or promo for Escape to Earth. The Kickstarter for issue number 2 is live now, so go ahead and check that out. It goes a long way to supporting this show, and hopefully it may make a great Christmas present, at least. So you make your donation now, and then you get the book probably in April, or May. So that just works out. So you get Christmas in May, huh? I mean, that makes perfect sense, right?
There you go. Yeah, of course.
Anything else to add before we end it there, Mr. Velazquez?
No, Steve, I think you can ring the bell, if you will.
All right. We'll see you guys next Sunday as we continue to unearth even more obscure media only on Obscurity Now. See you next week.
You've been enjoying Obscurity Now, a podcast that's recorded live to tape and streamed to Twitch and YouTube. Subscribe so you never miss an episode or hilarious quip. Take us with you by following the download links provided in the show notes to wherever you get podcasts. And take notice of our various social media links, if that's what you're into. I'm not here to judge. And make sure you join us live next week at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific as we continue to discuss more obscure media only on Obscurity Now.